I think we can go ahead and get started now. So hi everyone, my name is Jessica Suniga. I am the admissions advisor for the PharmD program. Today we're going to be going over our international evaluation process. And then we have our Director of Admissions, Mr. Morgan Ely, here with us today. So he'll be going into the process, just kind of giving you all that information that's needed.
We're
And then
glad all
Mr.
you are here today.
Ely, yeah. Awesome. So then we can move on to our first slide. So like I mentioned today, we're going to do that evaluation process. But before that, I'm just going to do a quick overview of our admission requirements. And then I'll pass it on to Mr. Ely for a process overview of the international coursework evaluation. Then we're going to share additional information with you as well as the applications that you have to complete. And then we'll also have a Q&A session. Throughout the session, if you have any questions, just go ahead and drop them in the Q&A chat box. So it should be somewhere in your screen. Just type in your questions, and then at the very end, we're going to address all of your questions, okay? So then let's get started with our admissions overview. So actually, no, we'll start with our timeline first. So this is going to be specific for this 2024 cycle. If you're thinking of applying for a future cycle, the timeline is going to be similar, but just keep an eye out for those specific dates. So for the 2024 cycle, our applications opened up July 13th. So they're currently already open. If you are going to be requesting an international coursework evaluation, all of the documents with which we'll touch on in a little bit, have to be submitted by September 29th. So towards the end of this month, all of those documents need to be in. And then if you are thinking of taking the PCAT, which is our entry exam for all schools of pharmacy, that is currently optional at all pharmacy schools. But if you are thinking of taking it, the last test date that we will be accepting is January 9th. So then you would just have to make sure that you are registering for that date. And then May 1st is going to be our deadline to submit all documents. So keeping an eye out for that deadline, which is going to come up very soon. And then by the summer of 2024, all prerequisites must be submitted, and you must submit all of your transcripts as well by then. And then if you are admitted, orientation week will be starting August 12th. And then the first day of class would be August 19th of 2024. So then now we'll start going over our admission requirements. So all applicants must complete prerequisite courses, submit 3 letters of reference, complete 25 hours of volunteer service. And like I mentioned, you do have the option to submit the PCAT as well. But again, it's optional. So now for the prerequisite courses, as you can see on the screen, it's divided by 2 sections. So our math and science courses and then our core courses. So it's very important to kind of note this difference because once we start talking about the international evaluation, you'll be able to have a better idea of like how that would work in regards to both your math and science and then your core classes as well. So for the math and science courses, you do have to complete general biology 1 and 2 with the lab, microbiology with the lab as well, a genetics course, general chemistry 1 and 2 with the lab, and then organic chemistry 1 and 2 with the lab as well. And just keep in mind that all of these courses need to be for science majors. Some institutions do offer 2 separate types of courses, so like general biology for non-science and then for science majors. Just make sure that you are taking the correct ones. We also do require physics, calculus, and statistics. And then for our core classes, we require English composition 1 and 2, American history 1 and 2, a political science or government class, again 1 and 2, intro to psychology or sociology, and then a language and philosophy and culture class, and then a component area option as well. As you can see for these courses, they do have to meet certain requirements that are usually provided by institutions, especially in Texas. But if you have already earned a bachelor's in the US, then the ones with the 2 asterisks, you do not have to worry about completing. With the exception of intro to psychology, all of the other ones you can be exempt from taking as well. And then another thing to keep in mind is for the math and science courses, these all have to be completed the spring semester before you start pharmacy school. As for the core classes, you can take those this summer before starting pharmacy school as well. But just remember, math and science need to be completed beforehand. And then so we'll go on to our next couple of slides. As you can see, I'm gonna send you an email with all of these courses so you're able to see and kind of check off the ones that you have already completed. So it'll be divided in science and math, and then the core classes as well. So then for our next requirement, aside from the prerequisite courses, like I mentioned earlier, we require 3 letters of recommendation. Those 3 letters need to be from individuals residing in the US. And then as for who can write those letters, it would have to be a licensed pharmacist in the US, a professor, teaching assistant, or academic advisor, a work supervisor, or employer. And then when you are thinking of asking for a letter of recommendation, make sure that who you are asking is not only an approved source, but also they can speak to your academic ability, volunteer service, or employment attributes. Um, if you're going to start taking some courses here in the US, if you haven't done so before, it's a good idea to start connecting with your professors. In our YouTube channel, you'll find a video that kind of goes over like the best practices for letters of recommendation and getting those really strong letters. So if you don't know where to get started, definitely check that video out. I'll go ahead and send that link to you as well. But then also once you already figured out like who you're asking, make sure that you give them adequate time to write you a good letter so that the committee can see it. Because again, keep in mind that it's going to be one of the only ways that the committee kind of gets to know you from a different point of view before inviting you to interview. And then in addition to the 3 letters of recommendation and the prerequisite courses, we also do require 25 hours of volunteer service. So these 25 hours need to be completed in the US and they must be completed from when you started college to now. So whenever you are thinking of applying, they have to be completed at that point. They cannot be done anytime before you start college. So if you did volunteer while you were in high school, unfortunately, that would not count. And then if you haven't done any volunteer work and you don't know where to get started, a couple of things to keep in mind is that it can be anything that benefits the community at large and that you're not getting any monetary compensation nor academic credit. So again, this is just a quick overview of our prerequisites or our requirements. But if you do have any questions, definitely let us know. But we also do have more detailed information on our website. We can also do like a one-on-one session, or you can join another webinar that just goes over this information. But now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Mr. Ely. He can go ahead and get us started with the evaluation process.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Iniga. And, just to reiterate, my name is Morgan Ely. I'm the Director of Pharmacy Admissions here for the PharmD program. So when it comes to international coursework, we do recognize that process can be a little bit daunting or challenging or for some students who are not as familiar with the process. And of the 130 some odd pharmacy schools here in the United States, each of them handle international coursework differently. So there's no standardized one way fits all for how PharmD schools handle awarding credit for meeting prerequisites of international coursework. So this is really just specifically with our program. And so definitely keep in mind that when you know you're going to be applying for PharmD school, you need to have all the items needed to submit that PharmCAS application into PharmCAS, as well as the supplemental application, which is specific to the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. So a couple things. Let me when it comes to the applications, definitely there, as I mentioned, that there's that standardized PharmCAS application, and the UHCOP supplemental application is specific to our college, and that is located on our UHCOP website, as well as it has been located within the school pages for PharmCAS. So the international coursework evaluation itself, we only will do the evaluation for the current admission year. So if you know you want to begin PharmD school in August of 2024, now is the time you get that process started and submitted for review. And definitely keep in mind that these evaluations must be submitted by the deadlines. So the items that you need to have put together. Number one is that WES evaluation. That WES evaluation is a company that processes international coursework. They're a highly recognized company throughout the United States. So when it comes to the University of Houston, the College of University of Houston. We only recognize WES as an at our school. So definitely that's the process. That's the company that you have to go through if you want us to use your coursework. Secondly, and is when it comes to the courses that you want to use, definitely make sure you are able to obtain and provide those course syllabi and course descriptions. The course description typically is just the name of the course and maybe three sentences or so describing what the content is. But the syllabus or syllabi plural covers the very specific information about the content that's covered, chapters covered, books that are reviewed, if there's laboratory work, what the lab work entails. All that information is going to be required, as well as it needs to, you need to provide that to either submit it through your it can be submitted through your FarmCast app. We'll talk about the submission in just a minute, but definitely it's just the course syllabi and course descriptions for the courses that you care about that you hope will meet our prerequisite courses. So don't feel you have to get every college course you've ever attended if not all of them are going to be applicable to helping you get accepted to pharmacy school. And an official sealed international transcript will need to be provided to the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. It doesn't have to be provided at applicant submission, but you do need to be able to have that ready to be submitted by our May 1st deadline. And we'll talk a little bit more of that as we go along. So PharmCAS, as I mentioned, is that national application that you use to apply to all pharmacy schools. The WES evaluation can be submitted directly into PharmCAS. You can also upload the syllabi and course catalog descriptions into PharmCAS. It's been my experience that the WES evaluation includes an unofficial international transcript, but if not, definitely be prepared to upload that into PharmCAS. So a couple places where this can be done, or where these items are going to be done. Right now, what you're seeing is the portal to the PharmCAS application. There are 4 quadrants. In the program materials quadrant, that's where you click on there for University of Houston College of Pharmacy and upload the course descriptions and the syllabi. When it comes to the transcript, you would actually would upload that within the transcript section of the coursework evaluate of the PharmCAS application. So, just to reiterate, here's the information for the WES company. There's a pretty user-friendly website. But definitely when it comes to those international coursework, you really need to follow up with them and making sure that they have what they need in order to effectively evaluate your international courses so that it can be in a usable format for us and other pharmacy schools. If you're applying to other pharmacy schools, that WES evaluation is going to be accessible through all PharmD programs. So that's a nice feature of that. When it comes to items that need to be sent in directly to the University of Houston College of Pharmacy, the official sealed international transcript has to physically arrive in our office here in Houston, Texas, no later than May 1st. That is our application deadline for all PharmD applicants. So if you're in a situation where you feel it's going to be difficult to obtain an official sealed international transcript from your institution out of country or out of the United States, my suggestion is obtain those now. Obtain multiple sealed international transcripts. That international when I say sealed international transcript, I mean it is a transcript that is sealed by the registrar in their university office and is either handed to you personally or mailed to you. I strongly recommend that once you have that sealed item in hand, do not open it. Keep it sealed for the time that you definitely know that you'll be able to use it. But don't open it ahead of time, because once that thing is opened, then it is not considered official. Once it is unsealed, it can't it can't be used by the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. So I really want to bring that to your attention. So if accepted, definitely want to have that official transcript so that you can get that submitted by the deadline. If you want to wait till the last few days in leading into our deadline to provide that to us, that's totally fine. Just make sure it makes it to us by May 1. So hope that helps. So as I made mention, these unofficial international transcript I would have definitely have that at the ready. But that syllabi and college course descriptions are really going to be what are needed, along with that WES evaluation. Those 3 items are going to be needed because we submit that to the undergraduate academic department here at the University of Houston main campus, and that the department that actually teaches that content are the people that are going to be doing this evaluation to make sure that whatever courses you've taken, let's say, for example, it is a biology 1 lecture lab, biology 2 lecture lab, genetics lecture lab, and the microbiology lecture lab courses, it's the biology department who actually teaches that content are the team that's going to be making that decision. It's not going to be Mr. Ely in the College of Pharmacy. It's going to be the folks that actually teach that biology content. They eat, sleep, breathe biology. Those are the folks that you really want to say that definitely what the work you've done outside the United States would be sufficient for meeting our prerequisites. So very important. When it comes to the evaluation process, once, as far as like the timeline there, once both your FarmCAS application has been verified and UHCOP has received your supplemental application, and all the WES evaluation, the course descriptions, and the syllabi, once we have those items in there, that's when we'll be able to get the process started and get that to the undergrad department for them to make that determination. So definitely September 29th is the deadline to get that into us. If you are unable to get those items into us after September the 29th, we cannot guarantee that these items are going to be processed by the time that you need them. So definitely, and when I mean the time that you need them, the absolute last day for this is going to be May 1st of 2024. That's if it's anything if it's not verified and course credit is recognized by that day, then the application would be considered incomplete. So I really want you to make sure that, because you're joining us on this webinar today, we know that you're serious about getting these items to us. And so I really want to make sure that you are aware of these deadlines. So as we kind of move through this, there's some other things I want to make sure that we make you aware of, or make sure that things that you can also be working through as you're preparing to be accepted to our PharmD program. When it comes to, like I said, it may take several weeks, may take several months for those international courses to be evaluated. What you can do is definitely complete those US-based prerequisite courses. If you're coming to us from another country, it's quite likely that you have not taken U.S. history or U.S. government, or in many cases, English composition. So definitely be sure to get those courses completed at an accredited institution where you are residing. If you're uncertain if the institution that you're considering completing these courses at would be recognized, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But definitely, these are some things that if you know that you have not completed those courses, start making steps to be accepted and enrolled to those institutions to complete those courses. So also, if you have test credit for many, or test credit for many of these courses may be earned, such as if you're at a University of Houston has a testing center where they offer credit by exam to earn credit for courses. So if you're in the Greater Houston area and you want to take advantage of the UH Testing Center, that's fantastic. If you're looking at another college, university, or to complete the test credit at those institutions, you can certainly do that. That's totally acceptable. And just make sure that the transcript that you receive is actually indicates what college coursework is earned through those test credits. Very, very important. So as we're kind of working, as we're working through these items, I want you to be sure to understand that we're not able to provide this an unofficial evaluation for this international coursework. This is if you're not sure if the courses you that you're do if that you've completed in another country are gonna be recognized by our academic departments, that I would encourage you to go ahead and take steps to complete those courses here in the United States. And that way, if let's say for example you have you know that you are you that you know that you have that the genetic course is a course you've taken in another country, but you're uncertain if UH is going to recognize it, then make plans to register for that for the spring 2024 semester. That way, if the biology department informs you that they couldn't recognize you, that what you've taken elsewhere, by taking it here, already having that plan in place to complete that course in the spring 24 session, you still could be considered for fall 24 admission. So definitely hope that helps you. Something else to keep in mind. This is a question we get quite often when it comes to international courses. When it comes to the international transcript evaluation process, we're only reviewing courses for the purposes of meeting PharmD prerequisites. PharmD course credit that you may have taken in a graduate level program or at another pharmacy program in another country will not be used for meeting doctoral PharmD coursework. This process is only for meeting the undergraduate prerequisite courses, not for PharmD coursework. Very important. So definitely keep that in mind. So things to keep in mind, to remember. Our PharmD program only admits new students in the fall. So that means that, if you're looking at the number of undergraduate prerequisite courses, you're looking at about 70 credit hours that need to be completed. That it usually takes about 2 to 2.5 years to complete that from a fall, spring, summer semester standpoint. So definitely, if you're on this call and you're uncertain and you know that you've got a lot of courses to complete that you did not take in another, such as the domestic courses I've referred to earlier, get that process started right away. Also, all the math and science prerequisite courses must be completed by the spring semester before starting PharmD school. So that means that for people that want to begin in PharmD school in August of 2024, all those math science courses have to be completed by May of 2024. So very important to have those courses and items in place. So a couple other things. Actually, one other thing I want to be sure that I iterated when it comes to this international coursework credit. It's only going to be shown up for the admissions committee whenever they're reviewing your application record. The academic department is only going to say that the credit for the coursework is earned, not letter grade as far as how well you demonstrated mastery in that coursework. It's just going to say credit. It's not going to say your grade level of being an A for full mastery, or a B or a C. As far as our grading scale, it's only going to say credit. So definitely keep that in mind as far as when the admissions committee is reviewing your application record. Something else not associated with the specific PharmD, not associated with the prerequisite coursework are some other items that are mandated here in the state of Texas. And that is that a social security number is required for all incoming PharmD students at day one of orientation. A social security number must be in place. On day one of orientation, the person has to produce their social security card that has their social security number on that, which is provided to in turn provided, or I should say, is then provided to the Texas State Board of Pharmacy as a requirement for their for your academic coursework. And when it comes to meeting the four-year curriculum, really within in that first year of PharmD school, you're already needing to be be able to be allowed into health sites, and those health sites by the Texas State Board of Pharmacy, that social security number must be in place to move forward. So that's why that social security number is required at day one of orientation. Okay, I've gone through this information fairly quickly. All the information that we have gone through so far is definitely going to be is on our College of Pharmacy website. But at this point, I really want to be able to open up to questions so we can really get some of your questions answered.
Thank you, Mr. Ely. So it looks like we already have some questions in. So I'm going to go ahead and address our first question. So regarding the core courses like American history and political science, I am coming from an international institution and do not have these core courses. Will I not be able to apply due to this?
So I suppose the question is, if I'm understanding it correctly, is if you know, like at right now it's September the 15th, and you know that you've got that so many of these courses have not yet been completed or will be completed by May of 2024, then the answer is no, I would not encourage you to apply unless you know unless you have a pretty strong amount of certainty that everything will be completed by our deadlines. Did that do you believe that I answered that question thoroughly? Is there anything you wanted to add, Miss Uniga?
No, I believe you hit the point. So just basically that you do have to take these courses at a U.S. institution. I know a student did make a comment concerned about the cost. One thing that I would consider is maybe applying at a community college. Usually the courses are available at a community college at a lower cost. So that it's definitely an option to complete those US-based courses like history, political science, and government. But yes, to answer your question, they do have to be completed in order to be admitted into the program. And then for our next question, so what courses will fulfill biological science requirements? So like we mentioned earlier, we're not able to provide an unofficial evaluation. If you did complete courses that you believe would meet the biology, like general biology courses, you would have to get, like Mr. Ely mentioned, the course descriptions and the syllabi in order for us to be able to send it to the correct department. So if you took a course where you cover content that is very heavy on biology, or maybe the course is just like Intro to Biology 1 and 2, or that you think that might meet the requirements, that's when you would get those documents needed in order to start that evaluation process.
Right. And I would also say that if you're looking at biology courses that have been completed domestically here in the United States, if you're uncertain if that's going to cover it, definitely there's opportunities to get an advising session, and just with one of our team members. And I will reiterate back to this, but you within our PharmD webpage, you do have opportunities to schedule one-on-one advising sessions for us to be able to review this domestic coursework, or you can send in the domestic course descriptions for us to be able to say, yes, that definitely would count of that United States course. So that opportunity is available for the domestic coursework.
And then our next question, for international transcripts, does official mean original, or must the transcript be sealed? So Mr. Ely, you did hit that point earlier. I think the question was asked beforehand, but yes, it does need to be in a sealed envelope.
Correct. And that's so absolutely.
And then our next question, if I'm taking courses at UH as a post-bac student and my courses have been transferred to UH, do I still need to go through the WES evaluation process?
Oh, that's a good question. If it's already been recognized specifically for meeting our prerequisite courses, then no, that would not be required for you for that particular student. If those specific courses indicate international credit and not for, and forgive me, the course names and numbers are not off the top of my head, but for the genetics course, for example, the genetics course name and number is biology 3301. So if you're in UH International Credit already shows biology credit for genetics, specifically biology 3301, then we would recognize it. But if it just says biology elective, then that's not going to be sufficient. It's the specific prerequisite courses are required to be met just for any applicant, regardless of if they went to UH or not. So in that situation where it's not specifically delineated the precise prerequisites we need, then that West evaluation process would need to be would be gone through. But I could for that applicant, I'd be very interested to discuss their situation with them directly, or schedule an admissions counseling appointment. As UH student, we can see some of the information ahead of time to be able to go from there.
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage you to set up that appointment. I will drop the link in a little bit, but first I'm going to drop our post survey. So just let us know what you thought about this webinar. And then also, if you still have questions, feel free to keep dropping them in the Q&A chat box, but just take a couple of moments to complete the survey. I'm dropping it in the chat box, so just follow the link, or you can also use the QR code on the screen. But just take a couple of moments. It's a really quick survey. But in the meantime, if you still have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box.
Great. And so while y'all are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and address, there was another question about a person has questions about, has immigration concerns about studying with you, and studying while studying here in the United States. When it comes to the immigration concerns, that is a different situation entirely. This international coursework and residency for tuition purposes are two different. Although it may seem that they're directly linked, they're two different processes. And so, if you're a student, a hardworking student that wants to, immigrate to the United States, or have that's something that is handled through a different department altogether. If you are looking at obtaining permanent residency, becoming a permanent resident, that's handled through the United States government. If I would suggest reaching out directly to there is an international admissions office here at the University of Houston main campus. Most universities and community colleges I'm aware of have an international student office that can help address some of those concerns, or at least point us in the right direction to help navigate that process. Because it's individual, people have individual situations, and so individual solutions are the best way to go. So I would not even try to approach that because that would be out of my depth. I will say that if you are a student that needs to, or has an international residency, then you're also dealing with the need to obtain an I-20. And that is another process that's handled through the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. As an international student, you would need to be able to obtain an I-20 if accepted into the PharmD program as an international student. So I can certainly address that as well. I've got a slide for that, but just insofar as when it comes to having an I-20, there is let's see here, I'll pop over to that. To obtain an I-20 as an incoming PharmD student, this is the amount that a person would need to have, be able to demonstrate that they have financial backing in order to have. So that is something that I want to share that is something to consider if you know you're a student that has that immigration or I should say residency status for tuition purposes. I did see a question. There was a question about financial aid scholarships for international students, and then how would they apply for financial assistance. The University of Houston does have a financial aid office. I can tell you that there is a very limited amount of scholarships for students that are international students that do not have in-state or out-of-state tuition. Definitely, we have within our College of Pharmacy website, our financial aid officer, Mr. Scott Parker, is a good resource that he works directly with just PharmD students and optometry students. So that is his full-time role, is to help students with their financial needs there. And then I had another question about the deadlines to register to be accepted for. So the question is, for the deadlines to register for PharmD school for August 2024, does it mean that the documents for the West evaluation have to be sent into PharmCAS? And the answer is yes. If you have international coursework that you want to get considered for meeting PharmD prerequisites, that has to be, the West evaluation has to be sent in directly to PharmCAS. If you want to go for fall 2024, now is the time to get that West evaluation in. If you know that you want to begin PharmD school in August of 2025, the fall 25 application will not open until mid-July of 2024. So today it's September, so you're looking at in about 10 months that West evaluation could be submitted into PharmCAS for if you want to begin PharmD school in August of 2025. So, Ms. Anika, there was a question about prospective applicants. Did you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So our question is, what advice do you have for prospective applicants to stand out in the application process? So we'll start off with just based off of our admission requirements. So definitely you want to show that you are strong in your academic courses, but especially that science and math. So really focus on doing really well. And then for the three letters of reference, like I mentioned earlier, they're really important, and you want to make sure that who you're asking can write you a good quality letter. Another thing that I didn't mention, because it's a little bit more in depth, but when you are asking your recommender, they're being asked to either recommend you, highly recommend you, or recommend you with reservations. So when you are asking for that letter of reference, be very clear about what you are expecting from them. You want them to be very thorough when writing that letter, but also that they can highly recommend you. Like when they're selecting that, they can check off, I highly recommend this applicant. We require three letters, but you can upload four. So if there's four people that you know can highly recommend you, then as those four individuals, make sure that they are approved sources, so the sources that are on the screen. And then also, just not just for the volunteer work, but just in general, be involved in extracurricular activities. And then, if possible, get some pharmacy experience, whether that is shadowing or volunteering in a pharmacy setting. If you do have a pharm tech license and you have that experience, which being a pharm tech is not required, but it's strongly encouraged that you have some sort of pharmacy experience, just again to solidify that you do want to pursue pharmacy, that you are familiar with what pharmacists do day to day, and that you're still committed to pursuing that profession. And then also just doing your research on like what a pharmacist does, just so that you can have that. Another part of the application itself is a personal statement. And it's usually going to be a different prompt, but it's always going to be something similar to like what you like, why do you want to pursue pharmacy, or like why do you think you would be a good fit for this profession, or something along those lines. So definitely start thinking about that and like why you chose pharmacy. Anything else that you want to add, Mr. Ely?
Well, the great news is that at UH College of Pharmacy, we want to do our best to make things simple and straightforward for y'all. We do have a YouTube channel for the University of Houston College of Pharmacy, where we've had put together several webinars and really good resources for you to help address some of those questions. And even so, one that comes to mind is how to write a strong personal statement. Another one that comes to mind is, how to ask for strong letters of reference and what the process may be for that. So we do have a lot of good content there. We've got a couple other questions I want to make sure I address there as well. One was a question about what is the diversity of the student body, and does the program actively promote diversity and inclusion? So we do have a very diverse student body, and diversity can be defined several different ways. We've got both genders are well represented. We have about a third of the student body of the first year students are male, and 2/3 are female. As far as life experience, we've got folks that have well, just from years on this planet, we've got the youngest PharmD student is 18, and the one that's a little more advanced is 36 for this year. So so those are two different aspects. We have got folks from several different countries. At least I believe the last when I did the last count was 19 countries were represented, and over 80 different languages were spoken. As far as students, even if so that's and when it comes to residency status, I mean, even there are folks that are Texas residents when they begin PharmD school, but they may have spent their youth or much of their life in another country and immigrated to the United States. So there's a strong international population here at the University of Houston in our student body. And then specifically within our PharmD program, we have folks that are coming from all different corners of the world. We have several student organizations that are for different areas of the world. So, for example, if there's a student organization for folks that have an interest in serving Vietnamese populations, there's a student organization for serving underserved populations in Latin America. There's all different types of not just service organizations, but also students have different interest areas. So I mean and those are just kind of more like ethnic diversity or cultural diversity. We do have diversity of thought as far as if you have specific areas of pharmacy you want to go into, we've had those areas of interest to help support you to learn more about that. So a lot of different opportunities there. Ms. Unika, anything else to add there? I know I've kind of mentioned different
Yeah, no,
areas there.
you really did cover it. So thank you. We can move on to our next question. So
Great.
just to confirm, what needs to be sent by September 29th and what needs to be sent by May 1st?
Good question. So if to guarantee that international coursework that you have in place that you want to use for meeting prerequisites, to make sure it's actually going to be done, we need it by September 29th. That way, after September 29th, because by then we're getting it to the academic departments, they're definitely going to get that to us in a timely fashion, so we can to be evaluated. If the West evaluation, the syllabi, course descriptions, and don't arrive until after September 29th, we can't guarantee that they're going to be evaluated by the deadline, by that May 1 deadline. So absolutely, there's no exceptions to that May 1st deadline. If it doesn't arrive if it gets there after May 1st, it would not be recognized. It would not be considered. If it is submitted after September 29th, we can't guarantee it, but definitely get that into us. I mean, so that's what we've been tasked with in these working relationships with meeting this for you. So hope that addresses it. I know we had some other questions coming through. The
Yeah,
question
thank
about,
you. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, by all means, go ahead, Ms. Zuniga.
Okay, so thank you for answering that question. And then for our next question, does the pharmacy experience need to be in the US? If you have experience outside of the US, definitely still include that in your application for our committee to review. Because again, this is not required, it's just something that we do encourage. So if you have any experience, include it in your application, just so that our committee can make a decision whether they want to consider it or not. So definitely still include all of those experiences in the experience section of your application.
And I would say that when it comes to this, to your life experience, definitely if you have experience in of whether it be work experience, pharmacy experience, put that in there in that application. Let the admissions committee make that call. If you don't put it in there, the committee won't know about it. So I definitely would encourage you to get that listed in there.
Yeah, for sure. And then for our next question, so Mr. Ely, what is the typical class size for the PharmD program, and what is the student to faculty ratio?
Oh goodness. Some of that stuff I know off the top of my head, and others I cannot
Yeah.
say for certain. Every year we have 125 seats that have to be to fill, that we'd like to fill. For the past people that started PharmD school this past fall, we interviewed 182 applicants, and we have 108 8 students sitting in our first year class. So so that's the typical class size is between 100, I'd say between 108 and 125. So when it comes to the faculty to class ratio, I don't want to venture to guess. I mean, I do know that our faculty are make themselves available to their students. They're caring and compassionate about their students. They have, faculty office hours to be able to that's perfect, that's allocated to say, hey, yes, let's meet, come meet with me, come talk with me. If you're having challenges with the program, with some of the coursework or have questions about some of the lectures, come meet with me. The faculty wants you as a student to be proactive and be an advocate for yourself and to come, and if they're you're having if um, and they definitely want you to be a welcoming and engaging environment because they know eventually that as a PharmD student you would be, once you're done with the program, you would be there from their colleague, helping to practice this profession. So they do see you as being a future colleague, not and treat you respectfully as such. So I hope that helps answer the question. But I don't have the faculty to student ratio off the top of my head. I do apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't either. So I was like, Mr. Ely, take this question. But I will be sending out an email with all of the information that we did talk about. We'll do some research and I'll include that on there as well if there's like an exact number. Another thing that usually, especially students want to know is it's a little bit hard when you talk about like the student to faculty ratio because you'll have some classes where you'll have multiple faculty members teaching one specific lecture because they'll divide it in like different organ systems or whatever content they're covering. So then you'll have one class where you have 3 to 4 faculty members in that specific lecture or module, depending on like what year you're in. In the future, we will have like a curriculum webinar. So definitely join that one so you can learn more about like what the curriculum looks like. If you haven't completed the survey and you have any topics in mind, please drop them in the last question where it's asking for any suggestions. Like if you have any topics that you would want to hear about, definitely drop that in there. Um, but I think that's all we have today. Mr. Ely, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, we do have the admissions counseling appointments that are available for whether it be in person or online. The majority of the sessions are during the 8 to 5 um, work day, but we do have a couple that are outside of that. I believe there are a couple of evening opportunities there as well. So just keep in mind that if you are out of and when it comes to time zones, we are in the Central Standard Time, so do factor that in when you're scheduling your appointments. And I sincerely hope that this has been helpful to you today.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mr.
Ah,
Ely,
there we go.
for that information. And I hope you all have a great weekend and just keep an eye out for the email. If you think of any questions, just reply to that email as well. But thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.